Ancient Egypt is believed to be a highly advanced civilization. The following are 9 relics of ancient Egypt that could be real evidence of its glory. Did you know that the Nile River in Egypt is not just the longest river in the world? However, along its flow a very extraordinary civilization also developed. People today call it the ancient Egyptian civilization. And to this day many of the ancient Egyptian relics there still stand majestically. This civilization experienced a period of glory since the reign of Pharaoh I, or around 3150 BC at that time. There were many extraordinary discoveries that made this region in northeastern Africa one of the most advanced regions in the world at that time. So, here are some relics from ancient Egyptian civilization that we can still find today as clear evidence of the glory of the past. 1. Pyramid. You must be familiar with the triangular-shaped building, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, right? Yes. The pyramids are one of the most monumental remains of ancient Egyptian culture that can still be seen today. This building was actually created as a tomb for the pharaohs, or Egyptian kings at that time, most of whom were preserved in the form of mummies. Even so, the construction of the pyramid was not done simply. You know, it is said that the process takes 50 to 80 years, with a workforce of 20,000. This ancient Egyptian heritage building is made from a super large limestone structure with each block weighing 2.5 tons to 15 tons. Inside there are several rooms that have their respective functions. Until now, there are at least around 110 pyramid buildings still standing firmly in Egypt. Of this total, 27 of them can be visited as tourist attractions. So, are you interested in seeing the mummies and the pyramid in person? 2. Sphinx. Apart from the pyramids, the history of ancient Egypt also left behind another interesting building in the form of a statue of a lion with a human head. You've probably heard it too. Right, this statue is usually called a sphinx and is often found around pyramid buildings. The existence of the sphinx near the pyramid is not without reason. According to various sources, the sphinx was deliberately built as a guardian figure of the tombs of the pharaohs. Now, in its development, the Sphinx has become one of the most popular relics of ancient Egypt and is famous as an Egyptian landmark. 3. Hieroglyphs. Have you ever heard of hieroglyphs? Most of us may not be familiar with this term. Hieroglyphs are not majestic buildings like pyramids and sphinxes, but their existence is also part of the phenomenal heritage of ancient Egypt. Hieroglyphs is the name for ancient Egyptian writing or alphabet, which consists of various images and symbols. There are so many of them that they make it difficult to study. In a review of the history of ancient Egypt, it was stated that the number of people who could read these hieroglyphs was very limited. In fact, it was so rare that in the past people who could tell the contents of a hieroglyphic text would receive a high salary from the government and were also exempt from taxes. 4. Mummy. As mentioned above, inside the pyramid there are said to be the bodies of the pharaohs preserved in the form of mummies. The tradition of preserving corpses like this has been carried out since the glory days of ancient Egypt, not only for the bodies of kings but also for ordinary people. This cannot be separated from the belief that the ancient Egyptians had in life after death. They believe that after death they will be resurrected again, so they will need a complete body. Therefore, the bodies of these deceased people are preserved so that they can be used again in the future. 5. Tutankhamun's tomb. Tutankhamun is the name of one of the greatest kings of ancient Egypt. He ruled from 1347 to 1339 BC after his death. His body was buried in a place called the Luxor Valley. The location is in a niche in a cliff close to the Nile River. This place is a special burial place for the pharaoh's family. Apart from inside the pyramid, over time, the existence of Tutankhamun's tomb turned into a very popular ancient Egyptian artifact. This was partly triggered by the large amount of the king's treasures stored in the cemetery. 6. Rosetta Stone. Previously it was explained that the hieroglyphic alphabet is a relic from ancient Egypt. That is difficult to learn. However, the existence of the Rosetta Stone as another ancient Egyptian relic can help decipher some information in the hieroglyphic texts. The Rosetta Stone is an ancient artifact, which according to various sources, originates from the time of Pharaoh Ptolemy V. This stone was discovered in 1799, and information is engraved on the stone which shows that the leader at that time was someone who was very young, namely 13 years old. 7. Black ink. Apart from artifact objects or buildings, the ancient Egyptian civilization also left behind other findings that were no less useful for life. One of them is black ink, which comes from beeswax. At that time, the ancient Egyptians combined soup, tea, vegetables, and beeswax to make black ink. This was an extraordinary discovery, which became the forerunner to the discovery of ink with other different colors. One example is replacing the use of soot with organic materials, which make it possible to create various colors. Ochre, for example, to make red ink. 8. Papyrus. Who would have thought that the origin of paper came from here? Yes. The next ancient Egyptian relic is papyrus, a type of sheet that can be written on. At that time, the form of papyrus that existed was still very simple, but this material had much better strength than paper today. In terms of durability, according to one source, papyrus can last up to 5,000 years. 9. Water and sun clocks. The people of the ancient Egyptian civilization were truly extraordinary. They have an intelligent mindset, so they can find various interesting and useful things, such as water clocks and sundials, which are one of the relics of ancient Egypt. The water clock is an invention which in its development has become a calculating tool like a stopwatch today. It is made from a kind of container with a small hole in the bottom, then filled with water. It is these water droplets that will then determine the calculation. Meanwhile, a sundial is created by installing a pole that is placed in the sun, and then the shadow from the pole determines the time. These are 9 extraordinary relics of ancient Egypt, and are proof of how advanced civilization was at that time.